It is predicted, according to the UN and in its reports, the UN seem to indicate that, well, by 2030, water bodies in Ghana could be in a crisis situation because of the extent of the constant pollution we're witnessing from now. That is, if it continues. But how do we want to improve the situation as a people? And we are here to discuss the state of water bodies in our country. Now, particularly for us having constant pollution as a result of illegal mining or galamsey activities, and even if you do the transition, you come to the urban and peri-urban areas, you have pollution being exerted or being recorded on various water bodies in Accra, Kumasi, etc. We should be worried about it. One institution that has been always advocating for an improvement in policy implementation and also formulation against pollution of water bodies is Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies. We have the Greater Accra chapter person or head of the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies in the studio, and Alan Juma Sapong is here. Thanks for joining me, Alan.
Thank you.
Okay, but what's the current state by which we adhere to regulations that would prevent the pollution of water bodies in our country?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. As you are a witness to, because you're a media man and you cover this almost every day, the state is so bad. We have regulations, and I will tell you that the district assemblies, we have Ministry of Environment, we have local government regulations, and so on and so forth. But it's not working because there's no enforcement, and the sanctions for breaking these laws are also quite weak, and so we are going nowhere.
If you especially come to Accra, you get to find that even the small water bodies that we have that have tributaries joining the Odo and the Kole, etc., have dried up. And so the main drains have all choked and consistently silted with filth. Is that a worry for you as an agency?
That's a very big worry. We have been talking about it almost every day. And I know that with some of the flooding problems that we have faced, especially the June 3rd, was a serious disaster. And I thought that after that, we were going to wake up and then try to deal with it. But it is still happening. The people know what to do. But at the end of the day, if I have given people the power to protect and to secure my life and my city, and they are not enforcing the law, who do you blame?
We'll see how that goes. And just to give a certain premise by which we can posit our discussions, we put together this very report, and please watch it. We'll come back, we'll have a lot more responses to it.
It used to be a free-flowing lagoon and a place of abode for some aquatic animals, but now it is a breeding place for mosquitoes.
We get tilapia, we get mudfish. We have a lot of fish over here. When you take just the mosquito, how do you call it? The one they used to sleep inside. When you put it inside, you get a lot of fish. But because of all these things, we have a lot of problem over here because the river is not flowing.
Feroz Anumtete knows the health implications of living around the Chimu Lagoon, but says Chimuena is his home.
When the people go to toilet and everything, they put it on the black polythene and then they come and dump it. All these things are giving disease to us over Chimuena. You go and put the net inside, you will fetch toilet.
With the non-availability of refuse containers, some residents of Chimuena are dumping indiscriminately into the Chimu Lagoon. Others are also filling the lagoon with garbage and gravels for construction purposes. It is a competition for a piece of illegal land. First-time visitors cringe at the sight of the mountain of rubbish dumped into the lagoon. But the residents do not mind. They live, cook, eat, and work here. Open defecation is another challenge Chimuena is battling.
The reason why people are not going to the loo and they are coming here is because they are paying 60 pesos. You understand? And the public toilet is not for the government. It's a private business. So some of them can't afford 60 pesos. So they have to come here.
And they defecate here.
And they defecate here.
The kids sometimes.
The kids, even if the kids, the grown up. Even me myself, I've been here before when I was a kid.
The 2014 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey revealed a staggering 21% of Ghanaians do not have access to a toilet. The National Democratic Congress in its manifesto says it will end open defecation by 2021. The party may want to start that advocacy and campaign at Chemuena as both the young and old line up at the bank of the lagoon to defecate. The chief of Choko Chemuena is aware of the indiscriminate dumping in the Chemu Lagoon.
There's no place for us to put some bola inside. When you talk, it will come another thing. When you talk about bola, trouble. We've talk. So for me now, I stop talking about that bola. You see, they have, even you were there when they brought the bola there. They don't mind you. They have been putting the bola inside the lagoon. When you talk self, they don't respect you.
On a Monday morning when these kids are supposed to be in class, they are strolling on the heaps of rubbish here. Chemuena has a big problem.
Like many densely populated communities, it has its own challenges, from open defecation to environmental pollution and the desperate attempt to fill this lagoon. If you're also low on the socio-economic ladder, this would also prove as a challenge, as you have to pay 20 Ghana pesos to cross this lagoon. For Joy News, Maxwell Agbagba.
Yes.
And Maxwell Agbagba is also giving us a lot more of those reports in other subsequent platforms. But we all know that this has raised a lot more eyebrows. And for example, we have the CSIR raising concerns that the tributaries of the Odo and now we're having Chemu, Peshi, etc., all seem to be dying. And they could lead to some level of extinction and no habitation for any form of life or whatsoever. Yeah. What can we do about it?
What we can immediately do is that those that are choked, we have to distill them, just like what they try to do with the Odo. And then also make sure that we plant trees and try to create some vegetation around them to prevent them from evaporating, and also to prevent people from continually putting waste, plastic waste and other waste to choke them, because it becomes counterproductive after we do all this and then people go back to put stuff in it. So this is what we have to do immediately, especially within the cities. And also, sometimes you see when these things do happen, then the assemblies and the rest will try and turn this into big gutters. And I think they have to stop doing those things. And some of the rezoning of our lands, which allow people to encroach and get closer and build closer to this river and water bodies, must also stop immediately.
Okay, that even brings to mind the question about how critical or important is beautification around the banks of these bodies important in their preservation?
It's very, very important, so that you stop siltation from taking place, and then also forest cover or vegetation also prevent the water from evaporating. So it is not just for fun that you have to beautify it. And also when you put those things in place, it also prevents some human activities that will destroy or pollute the water bodies. So vegetation is very important. And so for beautification, of course, then people will go and see their tourism and recreational activities can also take place.
If you go to many of the areas in the hinterland, especially in areas where we have a lot more mining activities being undertaken illegally, what we call galamsey,
yes,
you get to see that for long stretches, you find whole river bodies very much polluted. They almost are creamy. Why is it that we don't have the district assemblies or the authorities in those areas acting?
I think that is surprising, and your guess is as good as mine, because these are the people who are supposed to. But I think beyond that, this has become a national security issue which should be taken out and further than depending on the district assembly. We all saw an tip, and if it is anything to go by, then the very people who are supposed to protect these bodies are the people who are aiding even foreigners to be able to destroy them. And it is happening every day, River Pra, Oti. And you know that the problem too for us is that most of our big rivers are at the southern part of Ghana, which is rich with gold, or supposedly rich with gold. So people are just going there every day and they are destroying. And we know them, we hear them, but nothing is being done.
With the constant state by which we tend to pollute those bodies, what could be the end result, or the state in which they will be, let's say 5 or 10 years to come?
The state is that, and it is happening now. Sometimes if you see pictures of, last time I saw a picture of, is it Pra or so, in those days and today, it has turned totally brown. And the cyanide and the chemicals that they use also pollute it, and it kills the aquatic life in the water body. So we are talking about fishes and the rest dying. Some of them also divert the water course, which makes it dries up, and so on and so forth. And sometimes some of the water that we use for home consumption that the water companies purify, they have to spend so much money putting so much chemicals in it to be able to purify it, which is also an extra cost to us, which is totally unnecessary. So they are going to die, we are going to die, we are not going to get fishes, and so on and so forth. And when it rains, that's where our troubles will start. Around eastern regions, about 8 communities last year nearly wiped out because the water banks has been destroyed and the river bodies overflowed when it rained for about 2 or 3 days. And in fact, 8 communities were nearly gone, farms were destroyed, and so on and so forth. I think it is about time that something is done to this. It's a threat to our life, our existence, and so on and so forth.
Which institutions, whether state or not, are supposed to be more responsible for making sure these very water bodies are in good state?
The Water Resource Commission, they have the legal mandates to monitor, to protect, and to then even the utilization of water and so on and so forth. But they are not well resourced. I've sat on radio and TV with some of their representatives on some radio stations, and they are also lamenting just as we are doing. They don't have the resources. They don't have the presence to be able to do it. But as I said, it has to go beyond, because now illegality, we have gold, and the gold that is there is for the entire country. Why should we allow people to steal it with impunity? So national security must come and stop this. And then Water Resource Commission must be empowered. And then the assemblies too must take care of this. Otherwise, this whole concept of district assembly, decentralizing government, if they cannot protect just a common resource in their area, then what is the point?
Ideally, what should they be doing? What steps should they be undertaking in itself to say they want to protect water bodies in their communities? Whether it's the Water Resources Commission or in collaboration with the security agencies as well as the district assemblies?
Yes, the first thing is that there's a land use policy in this country where there's a place where you can farm, there's a place where you can't farm. So they have to make sure that they enforce those policies. And it does not allow anybody to tamper with water bodies. Provide other livelihood too for the people there, so that they will not be motivated to join these criminals to do this. Otherwise, the entire community see that as a job opportunity, women, children, they go there and try to take part. But if they have other things and the price for joining these people to destroy our water body is so severe, nobody will be motivated to do that. So these are the steps that we have to take. Enforce the laws, we have to punish people, provide livelihood for the people in those areas so that they will stay clear our water bodies. And also, just as what we are doing today, we have to keep on educating people on the consequences of destroying our water bodies and rivers to us as people, to our community, to our economy, to tourism, and so on and so forth.
Oh, very interesting. And we'll be opening the phone lines very soon. And talking about the phone lines, we have an expert on the line, Dr. Ronald Abrahams. He's an environmental hydrologist with the Water Resources Commission. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Yeah.
Okay. Now, particularly, we know that there are concerns from the Water Research Institute, and just this year around March, they came out just to mark one of the days that they are worried that by 2030 we could have many of the water bodies we have in a country either losing their value or going extinct in various respects. Why do we have the state of the water bodies we have the way they are?
Well, I think largely it's relating to pollution, and then people encroach. You know, this is the basic problem we have with all our water bodies countrywide. Pollution coming from communities, which we call non-point source pollution, and then we have industries that do not have wastewater management plans. And because of that, they release their wastewater, which sometimes people mistakenly call effluent. Effluent is actually treated wastewater, but what we have is wastewater getting into our water system. We don't know how to actually handle our gutters. And people think that gutters are meant for wastewater, but gutters are meant to redirect rainwater or precipitation water from the roads into our water system. So when you look at the gutter network countrywide in the urban centers, they are all meant to actually enter sometimes important water systems. And we don't know how to handle this. You know, ideally, every household should have some kind of wastewater pipeline running in front of it. But look at the way our country has actually been developed, and then the way our communities are, and then what we are doing. Everybody is rating is bathroom water, kitchen water, or maybe salon, hairdressing salon water into. We shouldn't do that. And when you look at the population, also we are within the vicinity of about 27 million people. We need to actually change our attitude. This is a problem with us. We have to stop the littering we are doing. We have to be interested in giving garbage to registered waste management companies. And we should also be interested in checking or following up to see how they are managing this waste. I think one attitude we have to also change is, you know, the will or the zeal to really invest in waste management. By this time of our development, all district assemblies, or what we might also call the local government assembly, should have reticulated systems to manage waste, solid and liquid alike, and ensure that within their locality, which is the local government area, there's no problem with waste. You know, but what we see around is that sometimes when people even take the pain to put their garbage at the collection point, they grow and overgrow over there, and then it becomes a problem to nearby households. You know, so these are things that relate to attitude. How are we managing with having toilets in our homes? By this time of our development, we should give up this element of free ranging, because every land space is part of a watershed. And if we don't know what you do on the land, when it rains, everything actually gets into the water system. So it's largely attitudinal change. waste management and then all the things that relate to it, which affects our water systems, is also about how we understand, things. We shouldn't be told. We should be policing ourselves, community policing, because we have had the cost to chase people with military police, with this and that, to send signals that we don't do this. And that is where it should stop. Okay. But given the recalcitrant nature of people, we tend to want to continue. We check when the officers who actually said no to one particular form of pollution have gone off to see to other issues somewhere. By the time you realize the people have come back, to really do the same thing in these areas. So it's largely attitudinal change. If we let it actually get planted deeply in our system that, no, I won't pollute the very environment I'm working in or I'm living in, our country will be clean. And we should also be very happy to take care of our waste, solid and liquid waste, as we have it in the system.
Well, for all the things that you've said, more related to the urban and peri-urban areas, but especially when you go to the hinterland and you see the creamy nature of the water bodies we have, it's all largely attributed to illegal mining.
Yes.
Why do we have the phenomenon ongoing and bodies like yours, which have been mandated by the laws we have in our country to stop this and not doing anything about it?
Well, it's the same attitude which is carried to the mining area. And we have regular mining companies, who register. And then after registering, when you monitor them to some extent, and then you give yourself another time to go back and see what they are doing, you'll be shocked that they have violated all what is contained in the environmental impact assessment and then what has been agreed on, which features in the various permits from maybe the Minerals Commission, from the Environmental Protection Agency, from the Water Resources Commission. Currently, we have issues on hand where we have to go and then stop some mining companies. They are registered. But when you look at their mode of operation, it's completely galamsey. And even registered mining companies who know what to do and what not to do because of the permitting processing, tend to want to give their concession to galamsey people, which relates more to attitude. So we must be doing well, and we shouldn't allow, when foreigners come, our laws must apply. If you are a Ghanaian and you are working with maybe a Chinese company who are doing mining, and then you know that for mining, we have to allow some 100 meters space, and then we don't get anything as buffer, then we don't get anything into the water system which people are depending on. We have to actually comply strictly. But, people are in the habit of wanting to compromise and allow these Chinese to use their excavators to go that close into the water system. And by the time you realize we have this clay stuff, the water becomes brown, and even the system that will actually help to treat this water becomes a problem. We are doing our best, but what we have to appreciate is that the regulatory body, here it is Minerals Commission, Water Resources Commission, and all the other commissions, Natural Resources Commissions, they are meant to regulate a few recalcitrant people within the country. But when we have large numbers, if we say regulatory entities are up to about 1,000 or 1.5 million, and then the remaining 25.5 million are doing the wrong thing, the net result or effect will be faulty environment, very polluted water system. So we must change our attitudes largely, which is why we have actually taken it upon ourselves to intensify and then sustain awareness creation so that people will change it's largely attitude now. If I have a home, how do I dispose of my urine, my fecal matter, my solid waste, and my liquid waste? Are we prepared to even channel our kitchen water into maybe what we have now is the septic tank, so that we draw it regularly so that it doesn't overflow and then pollute the very environment we are living. So these are some of the issues that we as Ghanaians should take the pain and do. We were in Norway, and Norwegians told Ghanaians, we went as a team, that we don't pass out water behind walls and things like that. And the Ghanaians insisted in Norway and did the same thing. they've been doing in Ghana. So we carried Ghana to Norway, and we did that thing. I've been citing that example all the time. So
Okay.
it's largely attitudinal, where the discipline level is such that we want to comply or, regulate ourselves. And environmental management is not just about a regulatory body enforcing the law. The citizenry should be seen coming halfway through to help to keep the system clean.
Okay.
So we need to change our attitudes and be happy and ensure that our very environment, where we work, where we live, and all that is clean enough.
Okay. Well, thanks for your contribution to the discussion. And Dr. Reynold Abrahams is an environmental hydrologist with the Water Resources Commission, and giving us his own views on that and how competent or not or effective the Water Resources Commission can do what they are expected to do. Largely, you seem to empathize with them because you feel they don't have the needed resources to do all that.
Yeah, sure, but he did not mention that he was rather admonishing and Ghanaians to live right and then to do the right thing. But especially concerning the Galamsey and water bodies, it's only few people who are doing that. It's not all Ghanaians, and they are destroying major water bodies. So they have to go in there.
The major contributors to the pollution of the water bodies we have are only few.
Yes.
In terms of the entities or the companies
in
or the
terms of the
individuals.
company, and they know the companies, and as he was complaining that the companies flout the laws and the regulations and then the permit limitation that has been given them, they have to go in there and stop it. That's what they have to do.
Well, this is what we'll be doing. We'll be opening the phone lines, and if perhaps you're watching us from any of those areas in which we have these water bodies that have largely been polluted, we want you to share your experiences with us, and very soon we'll display the numbers on the screens for you. You call us, let us know what your views are, but you can also be sharing a lot more of your views on Facebook, Join Us on TV, as well as also getting interactive on our platform on WhatsApp through the number 0560 800,000. We still have Alan Jumosapong, who is the director for the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies. It's an NGO, and he's director for the Greater Accra chapter. And particularly when we know that we're expected to be having the enforcement
place. There's nothing that the people in the community can do to stop these people, especially in those places where Galamsey, and these people are heavily armed. They are heavily armed. They have money. They are well connected. So even some chiefs are afraid to approach these people.
Okay. We have on the line the PR manager for Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, Robert Coleman. A very good morning to you. Now, particularly when we know that people's attitudes are very much keen or very much linked to the current state of the destruction of our water bodies, how is your company partnering with the various assemblies to make sure this is improved?
Hello?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, Roland.
Okay. We have the PR manager for Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, Robert Coleman, on the line. Now, particularly when we know that people's attitudes are mainly the result of what we see, the distraction to the water bodies we have in the urban and peri-urban areas, and you are a foremost waste management company. How do you partner with the local assemblies to make sure that is improved?
Yes, Roland, let me first of all say that I watched the clip that you showed a couple of minutes ago, and I am not surprised at all, because this is an area that personally I have been working assiduously and in tandem with the MP for the area, Honorable Osla Owusu, the Glife area. and therefore I am very much aware of the current situation that exists over there. Roland, your guest spoke eloquently about the fact that what we must do is to change our attitude towards the way we dispose of waste into these water bodies and into various communities. I believe strongly, and it is a position that I hold and continue to hold, that until we are able to enforce the bylaws that we have promulgated and enacted in our bylaws, Roland, we would not be in a position to make any significant headway. Look, we are talking about a situation where people abuse the environment with impunity. They do it with alacrity and they don't care. I have always said that, look, as a waste management company, what we must do is to ensure that we collect the waste and send them to the final disposal site. And I can say that from 2006, we have been trying very hard to do our best. The area that you showed on telly, last 2-3 months, we were there and we placed what we call central containers over there for people to generate their waste and dispose of their waste in it. Look, it will surprise you to note that these containers have been placed there and nobody is using the container, and they decide to go to the water body and go and dump. So the fundamental question I keep on asking myself, Roland, is that don't we have assemblymen over there? Don't we have opinion leaders over there? To the extent that we even have a chief of the area within that particular vicinity. And it is not as if people don't know the people who are abusing these water bodies and the environment. People are very much aware of these people. So who is taking responsibility of such recalcitrant people who are abusing the environment and these water bodies with impunity? And that is the problem I have. Look, that particular area is an area that is being managed by one waste management contractor called Liberty Waste. And we have even been helping her when it comes to central containers and lifting it. That is an arrangement we have with the AMA we call additional responsibility. These areas, we send waste bins to the place and distribute free of charge. That is 4 years ago, Roland. I can say on authority that when you go to some of these areas, you will be surprised, Roland, that people have collected these bins and they are using the bins to store maize. They are using the bins to store their addresses, water, and etc. So the point I am making is that if the waste management contractors have an agreement with the assembly to provide waste management services, and the people are recalcitrant and they are not heeding to some of the terms of engagement, what we must do is that these people must be arrested and prosecuted. And the prosecution should be done expeditiously to serve as a deterrent. But the current situation to me is reprehensible. And if we don't check some of these things, we'll continue this way, Roland.
Now, Mr. Coleman, particularly, we know that we're supposed to make sure that we also work in tandem with the top ministries as well as agencies. What the NGOs who are involved in the water body sustainability activities are saying is that it's become a security issue, and waste management is also a related issue as well. So how do your company see it as a security issue and so is working in that regard?
Roland, come again.
I'm saying that the NGOs who are involved in ensuring that there's advocacy to make sure people refrain from polluting these water bodies are saying it's now become a security issue. Does your company also see it as a security issue? Because when people die as a result of waste that is silting the drains, etc., it becomes more of people losing their lives. Do you see it as a very urgent issue, and so you work towards it with the assemblies and the ministries and the traditional authorities?
Roland, the point is that it is more than a security issue.
Okay.
Because we are talking about the fact that people can die as a result of what is happening. You remember in June what really happened at Circle, where a lot of people lost their lives because most of the drains, the outdoor drain that flows to the sea was blocked. And you saw what exactly happened. If you have a situation that about 100 and so people will die, if this is not a security threat, then I am yet to be convinced by anybody who will tell me that it has absolutely nothing to do with security. This is a huge security threat, and the people are doing it with impunity. Look at the footages that you are showing. Don't we see these kids? Don't we see the elderly people going there to do their own thing? How many of the households within that particular area have been that they deposit waste into for the waste management contractor to come? Look at the way you have an excavator going deep into the tunnels, trying to excavate some of the debris and the waste in these areas. So it is a huge security risk, and I think that collectively as a society, we must do something about it. Because if we don't do it and we continuously lose life, then we are failing as a society. And that is the reason why I am saying that in order to engender attitudinal change, in order to engender behavioral change, enforcement of the bylaws is critical and key. Because if we don't enforce the bylaws and we leave people to do things according to their own whims and caprices, people will do what? Dump into these drains, and the drains will get choked. Cholera outbreak will be prevalent in these areas, and certainly it becomes a national risk.
But Mr. Coleman, what happened to the idea of having sanitation courts and people prosecuted, etc.? Is it all part of the chain of making sure that the bylaws are also implemented? Because currently we're showing a picture of where it's raining and people are just sweeping rubbish into running water.
Thank you, Roland. And that was the point I was about to make.
Okay.
That people who are lawless must be handed over to the lawmakers. And that is why I have always held the view that every district assembly must be in a position to establish one sanitation court, or about 10 sanitation courts, in every district assembly. Look, we have 10 sub-metros in Accra. The sanitation courts in Accra, they are not adequate, you understand. We need the volume of people or the number of people who abuse the environment are many. And therefore, you need this sanitation court for them to try these cases expeditiously and give stiffer fine. So yes, in Accra, I am very much aware that the current Metropolitan Chief Executive, Honorable Alfred Okovandapoy, has managed to establish some sanitation courts. But what about the other district assemblies? Because whatever they do in the various district assemblies that borders Accra certainly has a ripple effect in what happens in Accra.
Definitely.
And therefore, we must be in a position to implement or enforce the sanitation bylaws upstream in Ga East, Ga West, and all that, so that when it rains and water is flowing to the ocean, you have a cleaner water.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is that sanitation costs are extremely important. And that is why I've always said that in appraising the various metropolitan and district chief executives, we must use enforcement of the bylaws as one of the indices so that we can be able to ask which a chief executive was able to prosecute people who abuse the environment. And don't forget that we also have coordinating directors, environmental health officers, and they must be held responsible. Because I always keep on saying that the politicians will come and go, but those of the coordinating directors, together with the environmental health officers who are recruited on patronage, they have a very huge responsibility. And what they must do is that they must work, and the work must be done in such a way that we will not treat people with kid gloves. People dump refuse into drains, they must be arrested, they must be given stiffer fines. People defecate openly, they must be arrested and given stiffer fines. And I believe if we do that, it will certainly serve as a deterrent to others, Roland.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Robert Coleman is the PR manager for Zoomline Ghana Limited and the biggest waste management company in the country, and giving us that very insight as to how Herculean the tax is in changing people's attitude, but how also law enforcement should be the order of the day. It means that all stakeholders agree that law enforcement is critical. Why are we not having that?
It's very critical, but I am surprised there's a sanitation court. As he said, they are not even enough. But one thing about law enforcement is that you don't have to prosecute all the people who will flout the law to deter many people. I work in the university and I sit on the disciplinary committee. And if we just punish 1 or 2 people and just publish it, it deters a lot of people from doing it. So you don't even need to arrest everybody, which is probably not possible. But if few people are punished and published, it will deter a lot of people.
And we said that we'll be opening the phone lines we have. And many of you from those affected areas seem to be calling. We have George from Takwa. George, a very good morning. What really is your own experience as far as the pollution of your river body in your area?
Thank you, Roland. A very good morning to you.
Morning.
Roland, what is happening in our area is very, very bad so far as these galamsey activities are concerned. It's not only in Takwa, but when you move along the major road of Takwa, Bogoso to Ayamfrey, Dunkwao, and Obuasi, Roland, you will be surprised to see how Ghanaians we are destroying our land. Talk of the land, the water resources, the pollution is so bad. And we have politicians in this country, we have pastors, religious leaders.
What do you expect them to do when we ourselves foremostly don't want to have the right attitude towards our own water bodies?
Roland, what I would say is that they are active players in this canker, this major canker which is happening in our nation.
Meaning what?
They are active players.
Okay.
You see, they are hiding behind these Chinese, these foreigners, Chinese people, and then the local people as well. And they are using them to make money out of this activity. But they are not thinking about the future of this country. And that is very bad. You see, the major rivers of our country, River Pra, River Ofin, and Cobra, and the rest, they are destroying it. And I can't imagine what, our young people, those who will be coming in the near future, what they are going to.
Well, thank you very much, George. We have Kwame also calling us from Akimodan. Kwame, a very good morning to you. Any experience you want to share with us? Hello, Kwame. Kwame.
Good morning, Mr.
Kwame.
My name is Kwame Atifa. I'm calling from Akimoda.
Okay.
Hello.
So this is what I want you to do. Please turn off the radio, the volume of your set, your TV set. Turn off or lower the volume of your TV set, and try to listen to me instead of just trying to get the signal from your set, because there's always going to be a delay because of the satellite transmission. So just talk to me directly. Please tell us your experiences. Kwame from Akimoda. Well, Kwame's line has dropped. We have Amwako from Obuasi. From Obuasi, what can you tell us, your experiences?
Yeah, I want to comment on the
destroying
of water bodies and with our land. In fact, some of us, we determined to be a family by using these water bodies to pump water to our the product that we grow. Because of destroying of the water bodies and then our lands, we have moved to Marseille just to find something to do. And we are appealing to the government. If they can do something, some of us will be staying in our various areas to, do something by doing the farming and those things in order to help the country. So you being the voice of the people, at least sometimes we should also start streaming to other areas. All those who are in the line of those water areas are also affected. And even the cyanide and those things are also coming into the water body. So it's also affecting the land. So well, we are pleading to you to help us a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Kwame from Obuasi. And we're getting a lot more of the calls from the mining communities. And we have Isaac from Takwa. Isaac, please tell us your concerns. Now, particularly when we know that you live in an area in which there's predominantly both illegal and mainstream mining. How worried are you?
Thank you very much, Roland. First of all, before I start with my comment, I want you to link me to the man who says he's a coordinator, because I put it in my Facebook wall that I want to also form that coalition, the water body coalition, whatever it is. So please, you can link me to the man after the program so that we can also start this off. Because second year is so abhorrent, it's so disheartening. It looks as if you don't have leaders in our country. Yeah, because our country, the climate, as my brother said, is destroying our water bodies daily.
Okay, Kwame, just relax. Kwame, just relax it. What's the state of the water body in your area? What type of water body is it?
Bonster. We have Bonster. Bonster is just from it's a good start. You cross Bonster, the river Bonster is there, and they're doing this campaign in lake, and then Presso is just after Abosu. You go behind Abosu, you have that also there. Yeah, be destroyed. If you're coming to Accra, you pass through the Poso. The water is just so red. All our ministers pass through that bridge. They cross through the Poso every day. Western Region Minister or the MPs, they cross this river and they know the devastation that the bodies, water bodies are going through. And it's like they don't care about us. All they know is politics, but they give economy, interest rate, inflation. But we drink water every day. We drink water every day, and nobody seems to talk about it. In fact, every time I say about this, my heart bleeds. So please, I just want to
get you in contact with a gentleman who is the director for the Accra chapter of the NGO Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies, and you have a responsibility, Alan.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy that you want to.
We have a couple of your messages, so we'll try and read a couple for you. This one is very much not related to what we're discussing. It's on politics. We'll try to read it when we come to AM Talk. But our final conclusions on the subject. If the community members are worried, because when we open the phone lines, many of them have been calling us and telling us their own problems, then it means that the onus lies on those in authority to do a lot more.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
how do we get them to beyond what we tend to do? Perhaps we need to have some class actions led by NGOs like yours, etc.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have taken action. Yeah, we have taken people to court. We have demonstrated against some development and so on and so forth. But I think that the responsibility to protect the water bodies is for all and by all. But some have more responsibilities than others, and especially people who are in political positions, government, state, and so on and so forth. I think that they should think about the future of this country and put some of these issues on the front burner and really try and do some, put responsible people in security places at the district levels where these things are happening, and put right people in place. I think they have to do that. We can only appeal to them because they have the power to do that. We have taken people to court, but we can do that so much. But they have the responsibility, or the greater responsibility, to be able to do that. Beyond that, even myself and you, we have given our right to them. They can get you arrested, they can do everything. So why do you blame me when you have the power to even deal with me if I pollute the environment? So there should be the political will. And they should also know that the community will be helpless, because the people who are engaging in some of these activities, they are highly motivated, because it has to do with money, it has to do with power, and so on and so forth. And also, enforcing bylaws is in two phases. the district assemblies also have responsibility to provide certain infrastructure and structures for us to be able to live a clean and sustainable life. They must do that so that we can also, for example, he was talking about providing beans and so on and so forth. It has to be big enough. They have to pick it on time and so on and so forth, so that when the people flout the law, we can have the moral justification to deal with them. So that's what we have to do. So it is for all, but some have more responsibilities than others. And the state have the greatest responsibility, and we have to do that. And we all live in a safe and secure environment.
Well, thank you very much. And we will try as much as possible to increase the advocacy to make sure that we have a very sustainable development being undertaken in our country. Sure. And we've been speaking to Alan Jomosapong. He is with the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies non-governmental organization. And within the discussion also we spoke to Dr. Ronald Abrahams. He is an environmental hydrologist with the Water Resources Commission, as well as Robert Coleman, the director for PR, or the PR manager for Zoom Lion Ghana Limited. We hope that your calls have also come through, and then you can also keep communicating with us on our various network pages. Facebook, join us on TV because we're streaming live there, and then streaming also on our YouTube channel, My Joy Online. But 0560 800,000 is the number for our WhatsApp platform.